Hello again, friends. Today, as we give the copyright author a couple of more weeks to respond, so I can finally tell Man Ray of Hope's story about trolls, as suggested by Cozy Mosey a friend of the channel, I will continue my Charles Perrault education. One of the things I find so funny about Mr. Perrault has to be his morals at the end of the story, so I will make sure to include them. When I first did this story, by the Grimm brothers, I named our young man Count Bob. I loved Count Bob, so I'll see if I can come up with something as entertaining. So this week I bring you the Master Cat. Did anybody see that? More commonly known as Puss in Boots. There was a miller whose only inheritance to his 3 sons was his mill, his donkey, and his cat. The division was soon made. They hired neither a clerk nor an attorney, for they would have eaten up all the poor patrimony. The eldest took the mill, the second the donkey, and the youngest nothing but the cat. I bet the youngest son didn't really vote for this outcome. The poor young fellow was quite comfortless, for having received so little, "My brothers," said he, "may make a handsome living by joining their shares together. But for my part, after I have eaten up my cat, gross, and made myself a muff from his skin, not sure I like this guy. I must then die of hunger." The cat, who heard all this, but pretended otherwise, said to him with a grave and serious air, "Do not be so concerned, my good master. If you will but give me a bag, and have a pair of boots made for me, that I may scamper through the dirt and the brambles, then you shall see that you are not so poorly off with me as you imagine." Ah! A talking cat! The cat's master did not build very much upon what he said. However, he had often seen him play a great many cunning tricks to catch rats and mice, such as hanging by his heels, or hiding himself in the meal and pretending to be dead. That's disturbing. Was he waiting for little mice EMT to show up in a little mice ambulance and check on him? Or maybe little rat police officers coming to check the little crime scene? I somehow feel that would be a better story. So, he did take some hope that he might give him some help in his miserable condition, after receiving what he had asked for. So, the third son just had cat-sized boots hanging around? Did he make them himself? Did money fall from the sky to pay for the boots? I need more information here. The cat gallantly pulled on the boots and slung the bag about his neck. Holding its drawstrings in his forepaws, he went to a place where there was a great abundance of rabbits. He put some bran and greens into his bag, then stretched himself out as if he were dead. He thus waited for some young rabbits, not yet acquainted with the deceits of the world, to come and look into his bag. He had scarcely lain down before he had what he wanted. A rash and foolish young rabbit jumped into his bag, and the master cat immediately closed the strings, then took him and killed him without pity. Yeah, that sounds like something a cat would do. I mean, aside from using a bag. Proud of his prey, he went with it to the palace and asked to speak with his majesty. Did the guard say, "Ah, a talking cat?" Because they should have. He was shown upstairs into the king's apartment, and, making a low bow, said to him, "Sir, I have brought you a rabbit from my noble lord, the Master of Carabas." For that was the title which the cat was pleased to give his master. "Tell your master," said the king, "that I thank him, and that I am very pleased with his gift." Another time he went and hid himself in a grain field. He again held his bag open, and when a brace of partridges ran into it, he drew the strings and caught them both. He presented these to the king, as he had done before with the rabbit. The king in a like manner, received the partridges with great pleasure, and gave him a tip. The cat continued from time to time for 2 or 3 months to take game to his majesty from his master, while apparently the youngest son either lived off the charity of his brothers or slept under a bridge. One day, when he knew for certain that the king would be taking a drive along the riverside with his daughter, the most beautiful princess in the world. Oh, goody. Another most beautiful princess in the world. At some point there has to be an end, or we'll reach a princess so beautiful she burns people to death with her radiance. He said to his master, "If you will follow my advice, your fortune is made. All you must do is to go and bathe yourself in the river at the place I show you, then leave the rest to me." The Marquis of Carabas did what the cat advised him to, without knowing why. Wait, when did he get a promotion from master to marquis? While he was bathing, the king passed by, and the cat began to cry out, "Help! Help! My lord Marquis of Carabas is going to be drowned!" At this noise, the king put his head out of the coach window, and, finding it was the cat who had so often brought him such good game, he commanded his guards to run immediately to the assistance of his lordship, the Marquis of Carabas. While they were drawing the poor Marquis out of the river, the cat came up to the coach and told the king that while his master was bathing, some rogues had come by and stolen his clothes, even though he had cried out, "Thieves, thieves!" several times, as loud as he could. In truth, the cunning cat had hidden the clothes under a large stone. You know, that would mean that the Marquis of Carabas is naked. The king immediately commanded the offenders of his wardrobe to run and fetch one of his best suits for the Lord Marquis of Carabas. The king received him very courteously, and because the king's fine clothes gave him a striking appearance, for he was very handsome and well proportioned, the king's daughter took a secret inclination to him. The Marquis of Carabas had only to cast 2 or 3 respectful and somewhat tender glances at her, but she fell head over heels in love with him. No, she did not. She was infatuated, which could grow into love over time, but love is something that must be nurtured and learned. It's stories like these that give us unrealistic ideas of relationships. The king asked him to enter the coach and join them on their drive. The cat, quite overjoyed to see how his project was succeeding, ran on ahead. Meeting some countrymen who were mowing a meadow, he said to them, "My good fellows, if you do not tell the king that the meadow you are mowing belongs to my lord Marquis of Carabas, you shall be chopped up like mincemeat." Rude. Also, what if this meadow belongs to the king? The cat doesn't know. He didn't ask.
That's us. You're sure this map's been drawn to scale?
I believe so, Your Majesty.
Then what have I been looking at all these years? I thought that was us.
He just like this belongs to me now, or you die horribly.
Mine.
The king did not fail to ask the mowers whose meadow it was that they were mowing. "It belongs to my lord Marquis of Carabas," they answered all together, for the cat's threats had frightened them. Yeah, that, and also, a talking cat! "You see, sir," said the Marquis, "this is a meadow which never fails to yield a plentiful harvest every year." He said, like a liar. The master cat, still running on ahead, met with some reapers, and said to them, "My good fellows, if you do not tell the king that all this grain belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, you shall be chopped up like mincemeat." I don't think this cat is a good person. Cat, if you will. The king, who passed by a moment later, asked them whose grain it was that they were reaping. "It belongs to my lord Marquis of Carabas," replied the reapers, which pleased both the king and the Marquis. The king congratulated him for his fine harvest, The master cat continued to run ahead and said the same words to all he met. The king was astonished at the vast estates of the Lord Marquis of Carabas. And so, I'm sure, was the Marquis of Carabas. The master cat came at last to a stately castle, the lord of which was an ogre, the richest that had ever been known. All the lands which the king had just passed by belonged to this castle. The cat, who had taken care to inform himself who this ogre was and what he could do, asked to speak with him, saying he could not pass so near this castle without having the honor of paying his respects. I don't know. This cat may not be trustworthy. The ogre received him as civilly as an ogre could do, and invited him to sit down. "I have heard," said the cat, "that you are able to change yourself into any kind of creature that you have a mind to. You can, for example, transform yourself into a lion, an elephant, or the like." "That is true," answered the ogre very briskly, "and to convince you, I shall now become a lion." The cat was so terrified at the sight of the lion so near him that he leapt onto the roof, which caused him even more difficulty, because his boots were of no use at all to him in walking on the tiles. However, the ogre resumed his natural form, and the cat came down, saying that he had been very frightened indeed. "I have further been told," said the cat, "that you can also transform yourself into the smallest of animals, for example, a rat or a mouse. But I can scarcely believe that. I must admit to you that I think that would be quite impossible." "Don't fall for it! It's a trap!" "Impossible!" cried the ogre. "You shall see." He immediately changed himself into a mouse, and began to run about the floor. As soon as the cat saw this, he fell upon him and ate him up. I have questions. Since he ate the ogre as a mouse, does he stay a mouse, or is the cat now trying to digest a full-sized ogre? Meanwhile, the king, who saw this fine castle of the ogre's as he passed, decided to go inside. The cat, who heard the noise of His Majesty's coach running over the drawbridge, ran out and said to the king, "Your Majesty is welcome to this castle of my Lord Marquis of Carabas." Did he threaten the servants too, or did they just fall in line because they just watched a cat eat an ogre?
"I swallowed an ogre whole! You could be next!"
"What, my Lord Marquis?" cried the king. "And does this castle also belong to you?" Yeah, sure, let's go with that. "There can be nothing finer than this court and all the stately buildings which surround it. Let us go inside, if you don't mind." The Marquis gave his hand to the princess and followed the king, who went first. They passed into a spacious hall, where they found a magnificent feast, which the ogre had prepared for his friends, who were coming to visit him that very day, but dared not to enter, knowing the king was there. I wonder, is it the king or his army that keeps them away? Personally, I'm afraid of the cat. His Majesty was perfectly charmed with the good qualities of my Lord Marquis of Carabas, as was his daughter, who had fallen violently in love with him. Nope. Also, violently in love sounds unpleasant. And seeing the vast estate he possessed, said to him, after having drunk 5 or 6 glasses, "It will be your own fault, my Lord Marquis, if you do not become my son-in-law." The Marquis, making several bows, accepted the honor which His Majesty conferred upon him, and forthwith, that very same day, married the princess. It's good to be king. The cat became a great lord, and never again ran after mice, except for entertainment. Moral: there is great advantage in receiving a large inheritance, but diligence and ingenuity are worth more than wealth acquired from others. Okay, sure, but the kid didn't do anything but lie once and put on a good poker face. The cat was all with the underhandedness and subterfuge. Diligence and ingenuity. Another moral: if a miller's son can win the heart of a princess in so short a time, causing her to gaze at him with love-lorn eyes, it must be due to his clothes, his appearance, and his youth. These things do play a role in matters of the heart. I'm not sure if he's insulting the kid or praising him, or maybe he's insulting the princess. Could someone please explain this moral to me? Well, we come to the end of another story. This is the point where I ask you to like, share, and subscribe. I know I say it every time, but it really helps. It really, really does. The notification bell will help you know when a story is available. I would like to thank Pixabay.com for all the things their wonderful contributors make available. Please, if you have a moment, go and have a look. If you would like to support me on Patreon, Instagram, or Facebook, there are links in the description below. And I would like to thank you, my wonderful friends, for being here again with me. You mean the world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. And now, for a special thank you to my amazing Patreon friends.